The Harlem Ham Fats Weed Smoker's Dream on ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory. Your first song, your old song for Old New Borrowed Blue with the Swingin', Quito, Washington. What a way to start. What a great song.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
So why did you choose that one?
The request was Old New Borrowed Blue. That song probably was one of the first few songs that I ever heard as a quote-unquote swing jazz blues that I connected with. It was 1987, Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Jessica Rabbit was singing it, and I heard that and I thought, that is a really good song. And I remember my grandmother at the time turned around and goes, that's not the real song. And I was like, what?
Jessica Rabbit was not the original?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And she said, no, that's not the real song. So this is 20 years before the internet, you know? So you go to the library and you research and research and research, and you can read about a lot of these songs, but you couldn't hear them. So, but that version that she sung was off the Peggy Lee version, who was fronting Glenn Miller's band. And they actually had watered it down for mainstream audiences, as in non-black audiences. And so they changed a lot of the lyrics to make it more of a piney, bluesy song. But the original is just the crux of everything about what swing and blues was. There were songs about oppression, about trying to get out of where you're at. That song by Tracy Chapman, Fast Car, that's right along the same lines as this song right here. It's, look, can we just work together to get out of this? So I love it.
What are the lyrics that had changed? Do you know the words well enough to?
Yeah, pretty money, 1922. Yeah. So sorry, I just had to sing the Jessica Rabbit there version. I had to.
It's a good thing you're wearing the dress to go with it, right?
Oh, I have my mother's hips. That's why she can't walk. So the Jessica Rabbit's version is more about, why don't you get a job, basically. Whereas the original version, the lyrics are, the girl's a prostitute, the guy sells drugs, and she's saying, if you stop doing the drugs that you're supposed to be selling, I wouldn't have to be a prostitute. So can we work together to get out of this? But she's still in love with the guy, much like Minnie the Moocher, where Minnie's still in love with Skokie, and she's going to stay with him, although she dreams of better things, Sometimes you're just stuck with who you're with because you love them.
So was this the type of music that was catching your attention before Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
It was, yeah. I remember Sing 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 was in a Oreo's cookies ad, and all the cookies were dancing around, and then they jump into the milk. And I was like, what is that song? And I'd always go to people and go, hey, what's that song? Dum, 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 dum. And everyone's like, no idea. That song, In the Mood, has always been good. I remember Madonna was in a scene in that movie she did about the baseball.
A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own. There's a scene where she's dancing, and they dance to Lionel Hampton's Flying Home, which is a fantastic song. So all these things were out there. And from where I lived and where I moved and such, I never got into the scene, never played a musical instrument, dabbled in piano. But my grandmother could literally hear a song and pick it out and tell you, oh, yeah, that was blah, 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 blah. And they fronted for so-and-so and da-da-da-da. And you're like, wow,
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
So did she have a good vinyl collection as well? No. Or it was all in her mind?
It was all in her head. She, because her mother was a piano teacher, so she always had music around the house. And from Tin Pan Alley, growing up, you didn't buy records. You actually bought the sheet music, and somebody would play the sheet music. So they had a more intimate knowledge of the music, and the music would stay the same. People wouldn't try to change it. They'd actually play exactly as it was written on the sheet music. So a song like that whole Would You Like to Swing on a Star? Would you like to swing? She could sing that with no problem, right? And I'd be like, wow, how do you remember that song? And just asking her that, she would just sit and go, well, I was blah, 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 and blah, 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 and da-da-da. And you're like, she would picture everything around that based on that song. So, yeah.
Just incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So where were you growing up? And
I grew up in
experiences?
Southern California, in totally with my accent. I know, so hip. We grew up in San Diego, on the northern part of San Diego, and just basically stayed all around California. It was a really good time to be there. San Diego was a beautiful place, but it went from 800,000 to 3 million in the space of about 5 years. It just exploded. You had Lower Silicon Valley, you had the naval base, all these people coming in. But while we were little, it was a really cool place to grow up in. So
were you aware of that change when that was taking place, that population boom?
More so as I got a little bit older, probably in my 20s. When you're sitting on an 8-lane freeway and traffic is stopped, you're like, what's going on? But like my friends in Sydney, they'll travel 2 hours one way to get to work and 2 hours back home. And I'm like 4 minutes from work. Oh, I love that.
Occasionally you get both sets of lights and it takes you twice as long. You're like, oh, it's traffic.
I cannot believe. Who do I speak to? I'm calling the ABC right now. Okay.
So how did you end up here with just a 4-minute commute to work?
Well, I met a pretty girl and I was told there was great surfing in Darwin. So packed my bags, sold everything, and hello, Darwin.
And hello, surfing?
I was misinformed.
Yeah, okay, good.
But after you grow up in a big city, so San Diego, hung out in Los Angeles, and if you've ever been over there, from the bottom of California to LA, it's just one big city. You never really leave the city. Whereas here, trying to explain to people that it's 3 hours to Catherine, and they're like, oh, but I'm sure there's stuff in between. Yeah, Acacia, Pine Creek, Nunema. You got to stop in at Nunema. They just don't understand the distances. And I just love the fact you can go a half hour out of town and you're in somewhere completely with no people. Go an hour and you hit Bewley Rockhole, and it's just beautiful. So I've had a lot of wonderful opportunities presented to me in Darwin, and they keep happening. Even having our swing scene is just an opportunity that you would not get anywhere else.
And that is something that we will talk more about in just a moment.
What's it like to kill someone?
2 deaths, victims.
To protest outside abortion clinics?
We call them mills.
To shoot a giraffe for sport? I'm Sarah McPhee, and in my new podcast, How Do You Sleep at Night, I meet people who live their lives in the face of judgment. This week, you'll meet Pokey's billionaire Len Ainsworth.
I'm regarded as the icon of the industry.
How Do You Sleep at Night? Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or hear all the episodes now on the new ABC Listen app.
You're with Rebecca McLaren.
Rebecca McLaren. We all share songs and everything together.
On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory.
For Old, New, Borrowed Blue, your guest is Quito, Washington. And before we hear some new music from you, when you first moved to Darwin, you went straight from San Diego to Darwin. There was no dabbling in, I guess, Sydney or Melbourne, where often people first touch down in Australia.
No, it was pretty funny. Apparently, I was on the largest 7047 collection of Australians leaving America at that time. So it was me and my 2 little girls, who are beautiful, and who are now grown and tall, and just they're adults. It's really weird to hang out with them because they're big people now. And so we're on the flight, and all Australians, right? And everyone's like, oh, where are you going? They loved my little girls. My little girls are running around. And I said, oh, we're going to Australia to Darwin. And they go, oh, Darwin.
Oh.
But are you going to visit? No, we're moving there. And they're like, oh, and the whole plane goes silent. I swear if it had one of those saloon doors, it would have swing. And it was like, oh, it's different up there. And I'm like, from what? Turn this plane around. So, but I did my research. I had my friends around. We drank Foster's. We watched Quickly Down Under, the Australian episode of The Simpsons, Shrimp on a Barbie. We even watched Bob and Hope, The Road to, Road to Bali? Yeah. So we really...
This is all terrible research.
This is the best research ever.
There's a whole lot of misinformation in your research, but I'm sure it was enjoyable because of the beer.
I totally was expecting to have to wear one of your Akuba hats and the I was totally ready for that.
Yeah.
And so...
Which you can. And you probably can in Darwin more than in Melbourne if you want to.
In 30-degree weather, not happening.
No.
So we landed in Sydney, and the first thing I did is I wanted to call someone. And I remember I pulled out money, and I went up to your phones, and you have different money. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just use my credit card. It doesn't take credit card. And I'm like, I'm in a strange land. And because we came off American Airlines, which is the coolest thing when you name an airline after your country, you pretty know which plane to get on. All right. So I go to the desk, and now it's slightly embarrassing because there was so much hubris, I guess. I don't know. I like to use that word once a day at least, just to keep it in
good,
constant practice. But I walk over and I said, yeah, we're going to Darwin, blah, blah. Here's our tickets. And the guy goes, oh, you need to get your luggage. I'd never had to get my own luggage before. The idea is I give you my luggage. It shows up where I get there. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they said, no, you have to get it yourself. Tell my daughters to sit down, watch our hand luggage. If anyone touches you, scream. I'll be back. Yeah. And I just remember getting like 8 bags by myself at once and brought it over. And then we landed here, and it was flying in here. It's all green, and I'm like, where's the actual city? Because I see green and ocean, and they go, it's coming up. And then
there it is, quick! Oh, now it's gone.
And then we landed, and I'm like, okay. And we walked across the tarmac, and I'm like, are we supposed to be walking across the tarmac?
Are we allowed here? Yeah.
And then love it. Met some really amazing people. I used to drive to Casuarina Square and just drive around the parking structure because that felt like home. It felt like that was the one place I can go. All right,
the multi-level car park made you feel
here.
Home.
I remember though, before I even found Casuarina, I was kept being taken to Hibiscus to go shopping, and I'm like, I come from where like a shopping center is the size of a city, and I was like, is this it? Really? Okay. I'm willing to accept it. And where I was staying, I remember we watched The Bill, we watched Something in the Air, and then The Games, which was an amazing show. Loved it. But we watched those 3, and then TV was off. That was it. There's nothing else to watch. And I'm like, oh. By day 3, I was like, what's that under the TV? It's a cable box. Does it work? No, we never plugged it in. Oh. Turned it on, boom, 24-hour marathon of The Simpsons. Kids, sit down. We're bonding. Okay. I'd never seen every episode. I was like, we're going to watch them again. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's what it's for. Well, we better hear another song. What have you chosen for new?
I believe Glenn Kreitzer and his Savoy 7, who operates out of New York. And the reason I chose him is because a lot of people go, we don't like that old music. And they don't realize there's a vibrant scene creating new jazz music now that's both sharing old music and creating new ones and giving people the opportunity to play music. And it's just really amazing. He's going really strong, has a Kickstarter. He's going to do a double album, which is impressive. Kickstarter.glennkreitzer.com. Mm-hmm. But, it's just someone that's out there. He could do the guitar, bass, Wonderwall, which is the second greatest song of all time. Kind of raw. Yeah, the actual Wonderwall. I know what you're thinking. That's right. So, yeah.
I was going to ask, what's the first?
The first greatest song of all time, that's a variable on where I'm at and what I'm doing. Okay. So, mathematically, statistically, I got to leave that open.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I respect that.
So Glenn Kreitzer, and others, Lindsay Zorsky. In fact, Glenn Kreitzer went out and put out a whole album of just new musicians out there playing music. It's a hotbed of stuff out there. And you just think, wow, these people are doing something. Niche music. They're probably not going to get a lot of airplay. But it's just amazing to listen to.
On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, this is Glenn Kreitzer. Glenn Kreitzer and the Savoy 7 with Savoy Special on ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, your new song as chosen for Old New Borrowed Blue by Quito, Washington. That's great fun. Difficult to sit through, actually.
It's very
difficult. Or sit still through, I should say.
I gave the live version because in actuality, there's little to nothing better than dancing to a live band. And because swing music is swing dancing is a contact dance, so you're constantly in touch with your partner. So you get that physical touch, emotional, your smile. It's mental because you're communicating with each other. And like tonight at the Railway Club with Brian Manny and B-flat Matt and baritone Liam, in front of the Hot and Cold Big Band, they don't just play the music like, all right, we're going to play exactly this song. They'll play to the dancers. And when you dance and the band is playing and you can, as they do their little frills and change it up and stuff like that, you have to accommodate that. So it's a conversation between you and your partner and then a conversation between you and the band as well. And you can't teach that as much. Just tell people, just keep getting on the dance floor and keep dancing. And like I could hear that there were the 3 solos in that, and all I kept thinking is, what would I do doing that? And then you could feel that build up to the end, and that's just show punny time. That's when you get to have a good time and go, okay, we're going to end this one, and it's good time. It's good fun.
We were speaking about when you first arrived in Darwin from San Diego. Quite different.
Yeah.
But there was no swing scene.
No, there is. In fact, there were a couple people, Snowy, Marilyn, and others, who were running the rock and rolls on Tuesday night. Rock and roll is a slightly different style, but it's a derivative. Swing is a huge umbrella that covers like many different styles. But so it started with backstory that will totally make sense in about 30 seconds. Swing dancing started on plantations where the slaves would watch the owners inside the buildings doing their Victorian Little Women reels. And they would then proceed to imitate them and copy them. And then, as always, the plantation owners would see them and go, oh, well, my group can dance better than your group. So they'd have these competitions of who can better imitate the Victorian reels. And the winner got a cake because apparently, if you're living in slavery and impoverished conditions, cake is the one thing you really want.
Sure.
So that step became the Charleston. Then the Charleston became Lindy Hop. Lindy Hop became East Coast swing and rock and roll and Balboa and Kalita Shack. So it's all into that. So when I got here,
as soon as you'd sorted out the cable situation,
that was so important.
You were then in search of somewhere to dance.
Who has a cable box and not plug it in, man? Come on. There were 1,000 channels. All right. So I realize that was quite mocking, but I accept that as so before turning 40, my final thing on my bucket list for turning 40 was to make a final movie because I'd already made like 3 other full-length films and a bunch of short-format films. I wanted to make one final one for my grandmother, which was about swing music somehow. So I went to rock and roll to learn how to dance. Not to learn how to dance, but more to learn how people learn to dance because that was the focus of the movie. And they were really welcoming.
So you weren't already dancing before?
No, because it was well before the internet. The most experience I had was watching it, or my grandmother would dance with me. But she just, it wasn't like I'd ever done it before. And so I go to rock and roll, and I'm watching people learn how to dance, and it was great. They were, like I said, they were really welcoming. Darwin's wonderful for that. You can just go into any group and say, hi, I'd like to join. And they're like, cool. So once I made the movie, Swing It, which was awesome, had Kellyanne Doll in it and some other people, made it all on my own, $50,000, which you could do a lot with $50,000. I do not recommend making a movie. Okay. A lot with it. But I made the movie, and then the Hot and Cold Big Band started at now the Darwin Hotel area. And I was like, oh, so I went along to see. And then I met a lovely woman there, Narelle. And so we're sitting there in the place, right? And I'm tapping my foot, and she said, do you know how to dance? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. And she goes, all right, let's go outside and see. So we actually just went out to the sidewalk in front, did a couple moves, go, yeah, we're good, let's go. And went in, and that's...
So that was a little practice outside to make sure it was okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Then in front of the band.
Exactly.
Good.
So we did that, and then so in any dance scene, you have more women than men. Okay. So she was like, Quito, you get to dance all night, and I have to wait, and I'm like, all right, okay. Fist bump my 18-year-old self who always sat up down. So I started inviting dudes and people over to my house in Jingoli, and then we got too big. So I went to Freshwater Gardens, and we were dancing there. And then that got too big. So then we'd do it at Nightcliff Jetty. So we've been doing it there ever since. It was a lot of fun. It's a super amount of fun.
So there was no challenge in finding other people who were interested in...
I have a very strong personality, and I work a lot on the barter system, which is I'll hook you up, you need to hook me up. So I'm here with, 4 or 5 beautiful women of all shapes and sizes and ages, and I'm like, all right, I need guys. So I would go to my friends and go, dude, you need to help me out. And we don't dance. And I'm like, come on, man, hook a brother up. Just come on. And so they'd come along, and they would dance. And then it just started slowly expanding from there. And because swing isn't a sexual dance. Swing is very much a friendly dance, fun, flirtatious, but it's definitely not sexual. So people feel a lot more comfortable dancing with each other in swing. So, more women would come out, more guys would come out. And it's like, guys, everyone could just relax here and have a good time. But there was another swing group here. There still is another swing group here. They're very talented. They operate out of the night school at Kessery Senior College. And swing is just very social. As soon as you hear that, you can be anywhere, and you can there's certain songs that you just start tapping your feet to, and you just look around saying, is there anyone here I can dance with, please? And then when you find someone, you're like, yes, let's do it. Okay.
And how big is that group of people that's doing that now?
The other one or us?
You.
Oh, so we could probably get around 30 odd people on a Sunday. And we start at 4:30 and we do our little beginner lesson. That's more designed progressively to get people to meet each other. Because I've gone to swing scenes where, this group dances with that group, the good people dance with the good people, and, you got to work your way in. I just have no time or patience for that. So my whole thing is let's get everyone to meet each other. So about 30 odd people on a Sunday. And then afterwards we sit down, picnic blankets, have pistachios, thanks to Paul. And then on Wednesday nights, probably around 80 will rock up. We don't keep numbers like that. I hate paperwork. I'm not a paperwork guy. So we just welcome everyone. So we get around 30 on a Sunday and about 80 on a Wednesday. Yeah. And then we have a Tuesday night thing that happens that because that gets around 20 or 30 people in it because I'm using hand gestures now out there in Radio Land that you can't see. The issue is once you get good, because I focus on beginners, because my whole point is get people off the lounge. Just get raw numbers off the lounge dancing. But once you get really good, we were finding people plateaued and they would drift off because they pretty much have learned everything ish. And so Tuesday night, Catherine runs that. She's lovely. And that's designed more for not specialty, but more skill sharing, more getting better technique stuff. Because at Railway Club, when we teach it, it's in the night. We got people that first timers there, people that come a lot. It's dark, blah, blah. It's a lot of fun. It's like a huge party, but it's not about technical stuff. It's like, let's just count to 6. Everyone be nice. So our Tuesday night session, we get around 20 odd people there. So there's something for everybody. We have all demographics from 18 to 76, and we have just parents, people bring their kids along. And it's like a big party every Wednesday so that when my birthday happens in 52 days, then all those people can, come out and have a good time.
You mentioned off the back of that last track that we heard about dancing with live music.
Right.
So when did you discover how much better that is?
Oh, the first night, the absolute. I've seen it. I've seen it many times, and experience. But when the Hot and Cold big band started, they were just so amazing. You just have 14 guys up there and girls, and they're just welling, and you're able to hear the difference in the music. Every song is different. Every track that they do, they'll say, okay, we're going to try this time. We're going to try this time. We're going to put more emphasis on the horns. So it's a real experience. It's almost just a synergy to hear them do it because there's you doing what you do, and they're doing what they do. And it's the collectiveness, more hand signals out there in Radio Land, that make it amazing.
So how does that work between you and the band? Is there a communication or?
No. We are so lucky to have a Hot and Cold big band. So lucky to have that. And so every time they play, it's like opening a new package for music. You're just opening up going, wow, this is amazing. And when they play new stuff, like, all right, we've never played this song before, or we've just practiced this song, they come out with new charts and stuff like that. Although there is one song, Brian Manny, that I would really like to hear done, which is the Rock and Roll Waltz. I would love to hear a big band version of that, because that's one of the ones that when you hear a band play it, it's so old. It's an old song, but yeah, you hear it and you just see all these generations get up and dance to it. So.
Well, we might do more dancing, some more songs very soon.
This week on Friday Night Footy, the Crows are still flag favourites.
Ben snaffled it in the back, got it to the outside of the boot. Genius.
But the Cats are back in a big way.
Blitzov's back to views. Dangerfield!
Join me, Gerard Whateley and Clint Wheeldon with Rod Jamieson and Brad Sewell for Friday Night Footy, the preliminary final between Adelaide and Geelong.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory.
Rebecca
McLaren. On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory.
Joined for Old New Borrowed Blue by the Swingin', Quito, Washington. Quito, before swing took over as being such a passion for you, what sort of music were you listening to?
A lot of pop. I was really big into pop. I was into the second English invasion, so the Depeche Mode, which is why I didn't play a musical instrument, because when I was growing up, in that pivotal time of like 15 to 20, all the music was electronic. You programmed Pet Shop Boys, the sampling stuff. So I was all into that, rap. Beastie Boys. I'm really proud that my son, Quito Washington, who has my same name, woo woo, he's listening to some good music on his little Spotify playlist and stuff like that. And I'm interested in his eclecticness, so it's very much similar. So,
does he continue to listen when you say, "Oh, I had that Beastie Boys album"?
I don't say that.
Oh,
no. The worst thing.
Right.
Although I know
that's the trick. I'm learning now.
Get ready. If I know that if I want him to stop listening to a song, I just need to learn the lyrics. And then just sing along with it, because there's no more shame job than your parents singing loudly to a song you like.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that from being a teenager. That's a good one. And what about your other kids and their musical taste?
Pop stuff. Yeah, they're all, pop music is called pop music for one reason. It's popular. And so, I mean, there's nothing, they're all pretty mainstream. Yeah, I'd say. My oldest daughter, Delkeisha, she can play the drums like no one's business. And one of my goals for her is to get another drum kit, but she's got two little ones now. So she's got an 8-year-old and going on a 2-year-old. I can't say the months. I'm pretty sure there's some X amount of months, but as a dad, I work in years.
Yep.
Okay. But she can play the drums like no one's business. So I really hope she gets back, because just to get into a band and play jazz drums as a parent, I would just be so happy.
So when they were growing up, were they hearing the swing music, the jazz that you were bringing home and dancing as kids?
Yeah, they were a shame job completely. I was banned from being a chaperone at their school dances by them, because I'm like, oh, I love this song. Get my funk on. You know what I'm saying? Dad, go away. The teachers loved it.
Yeah.
They thought, this is great. But no, my children were like, no, please don't ever come to our dances again. I think there's an age where you stop being a hero to your child, and the shame job years. So, I think about 5th grade, because I remember I brought KFC and coloring books and markers to my daughter's school, and, gave them to her friends, and they thought I was just amazing. Right. Yeah. And then after that, no. Then you have to drop them off down the street. Then, they'll let you know when they're ready to get picked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No more hand holding.
Well, we best hear another song. What have you chosen for Borrowed?
So this was done by Postmodern Jukebox, which is a band Scott Bradley, that takes not old music, but modern music and transforms it to a vintage style, getting really popular. And they put out a bunch of albums. It's a bell curve. Some are like amazing, like this one. Most are like right in the middle. You can hear and go, wow. And there's a lot of bands that do this. The Baseballs out of Holland do this as well. So because all modern music is based on G, E minor, C, and D, but that goes back to F, B flat, C, and D, I believe. But don't quote me on that. But basically, all they did is shift the music up and change the tempo. So if you shift the music back down and give it the original tempo, then it's just the same song that they've been playing the whole time. I know, magic. So This one I really love, because I have a double bass and I can play 2 songs on it. And this is just an amazing version of the song, except for the middle bit. The middle bit I don't like, but everyone else does. But the middle bit I'm not a big fan of. But as I was telling Mike outside, that how things transcend and music carries on. With this song in particular, there's a girl in Jamaica that can duplicate this song exactly. So she can sing and play the double bass exactly. So you have these little pockets of talent all around the world, and you just think, wow, that's so cool that they can do that. But so I love this song.
On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, Postmodern Jukebox.
Because I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, eye, it's pretty clear. I ain't no size 2, but I can shake it like I'm supposed to do. I got that boom boom that all the boys chase, and all the right junk in all the right places. I see the magazine working that Photoshop. We know that stuff ain't real. Come on now, make it stop. If you got beauty, just raise them up, 'cause every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yes, my mama, she told me don't worry about your size, because boys like a little more booty to hold at night. You know I won't be no stick figure silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, just go ahead and move along, because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, I'm bringing booty back. Go ahead and tell them skinny ladies that. No, I'm just playing. I know you think you're bad, but I'm here to tell you every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yes, my mama, she told me don't worry about your size, because boys like a little more booty to hold at night. You know I won't be no stick figure silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, just go ahead and move along, because you know I'm all about that bass. I'm all about that bass. I'm all about that bass. I'm all about that bass.
Postmodern Jukebox, all about that bass on ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, or Borrowed Song for Old New Borrowed Blue with Quito, Washington. It does make you think that that's the original version of the song, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember at one point, one of my kids was like, "Wait, is that the real version?" And I'm like, "No, okay, just work with me on this one." Yeah,
Pop made retro. It works.
Oh, it does. And like I said, there's a number of bands that do that because the music's the same and the music transcends. And the whole point of music is to connect with the audience, to give the audience a shared memory. So when we do open mics and, we sneak this stuff in and we'll play stuff like this, the idea is not to pick an obscure song that they don't know. Pick a song that the audience can connect with and do it in a swing style. So we'll do Minnie the Moocher. We'll do What's Going On. We'll do Stand By Me, because, people turn around and go, "Oh, I remember that song. I like that song." And they're not hearing you. They're hearing the memory of when they had it before in their lives and all that good stuff. And everyone loves What's Going On. Everybody. That is literally the one song you can play at any open mic and everybody will sing. So,
How lovely. Now, we've spoken about that big move from the US to Darwin. The territory is home now? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. The more home than San Diego. The being here almost 20 years almost. It's more that I would recognize this as in my advanced age, I have to think about settling down, and I can't think I've been anywhere else that I would say I'd say I'd rather settle down there than Darwin. Are there other nicer places on the planet? Sure, absolutely. There are other nice places out there, yeah, but Darwin has allowed me to satisfy 4 of my childhood dreams. One, I wanted to work on the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland and also work at the Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland, not be an actual jungle guy or be an actual pirate. Both of those I've accomplished because when I take my friends out on my little catamaran, I get to point out stuff in the water, and we always raise the pirate flag and drink rum and, play pirate shanty songs, The third dream was to have to be the maitre d' of a nightclub like Rick from Casablanca, which I get to do every Wednesday night when I host our swing party. And then the fourth one was to be the host of a televised dance show like Dick Clark, American Bandstand. And so I get to do that because we always put up the camera and go Facebook Live on Wednesday nights. And because we have this huge swing family all around the planet that's come in and gone away. And so they always log in so they can see. And they say the same thing. God, we miss it. There's nothing like that here. It's not just dancing. It's a whole social thing. It's let's get together, have jam nights at Jenny's, have barbecues, have, blues nights over here. Just, it's a connection. So, yeah. So Darwin has really worked out for me really well. They're pretty much going to have to deport me. Okay.
And in terms of those bucket list items that you mentioned before, you'd ticked everything off.
Pretty much everything's ticked off. And then I always get, well, you got to have another one. You got to have another. You got to have something out there. And I'm like, yeah, but I've traveled around the world repeatedly. I've, stood underneath the Eiffel Tower. I've done so much. I'm just enjoying what life is throwing at me now. On there, I guess you could say, learn to properly play the double bass. But realistically...
Well, yes, let's come back to that. You have a double bass.
Yeah, I have a double bass.
In your house.
Yeah.
And can play two
songs.
That's more than I can.
That's all you need, Unless it's country. If it's country, I can play pretty much the length and breadth of country, because you got 3 chords there. Play more, you're showing off. Stick with 3 chords. If Johnny Cash can make it on 3 chords, I can make it on 3 chords.
So how did that happen?
Deb and Doug, who are some friends of mine who live in Humpty Doo and have a band out there, very musical, right? They wanted me to shoot a music video for them. And I was like, cool. And Richie, who's with the Hot and Cold Big Band, we're talking about his double bass because it's beautiful. And I said, I've always wanted one. And the 30-second thing is 8 years ago, I was in Rosarito, Mexico. I was looking at all the guys' mariachis and they all have a double bass. And I was like, where are they getting all the... That's kind of a big instrument to have in this little Rosarito seaside town. They go, you got to go see blah, blah, blah. He's around the corner. You go in this little room and he has all these double basses and wood instruments. And you're like, whoa. And they're beautiful. And so we're talking and he's like 90 years old. And I said, yeah, I'll get one. How much? He goes, that's $200. And I said, okay, wrap it up. And I go, but I play rock and roll. And he goes, no problem. 90-year-old guy, Rosarito, Mexico. Tunes in, he's on dum, 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 dum. I'm like, all right, sold, right? And so he's wrapping it up and he goes, so where are you from? And I'm like, Darwin, Australia. And he stops and goes, I can't sell it to you. I'm like, why? He goes, because it's hand carved. You need laminated wood or else the neck will twist in the humidity. I'm like, how the hell do you know that? That was the most unexpected scientific observation I've ever felt, by a 90-year-old guy in Rosarito, Mexico.
Especially to cost him a sale.
Exactly. He could have just sold it to me. So I waited. So anyway, Richie was like, yeah, double bass. Anyway, Shazza turns around and goes, there's one on Gumtree. And I'm like, really? So we look on Gumtree, like right there on the phones. It was literally like 2 blocks away. And I go, Richie, will you go with me? He goes, Richie's an amazing double bass player. This is one of those moments where you're like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Who are really good at this. Can you help me out? He goes, sure, I'll go. So we road tripped the 2 blocks. And the guy was leaving the next day to England. He just needed it gone. So Richie's like, yep, it's good. How much? 600. Boom, done. Gave him 600, stuffed it in my little car. I've got a double bass.
And then
that's Darwin.
Was Richie your teacher?
Richie's very busy. He's a teacher. He works. He plays in the band. He's very busy. And my schedule's all over the place. So I look to him for inspiration. I look to Dan Davies for inspiration, Mike Foley for inspiration. I can ask them questions. But I'm the kind of person that says, let me download a how-to DVD and I'm just going to figure this bad boy out. And that has taught me so many things because there were no swing teachers up here. So when I wanted to teach swing, it was, I need to download some DVDs. And a guy named Daniel Newsom in Seattle gave me a whole bunch of DVDs and stuff, and I could actually film myself, and I would send it to him, and he would critique me and let me know. So it's because of him and people like him that we have our amazing scene in Darwin.
I hope that you'll bring the double bass in one day and play for us.
2 songs.
You can play both of them. But we better, before we run out of time, hear your blue song, Quito. What have you chosen?
So this is Nina Simone, My Baby Just Cares for Me. A lot of people have done this song. This is an amazing, amazing song. And there's no better thrill for me than when I hear someone on stage singing it, and they're specifically singing it for me, like Jack Tenapple, who you know because everybody knows Jack Tenapple.
That's true.
Woo, woo. Him and his band, the Jigsaw Collective, were playing one night at Rails, and they played this, and they mentioned my name in the lyrics. They took out some name and mentioned mine, and I was dancing with one of the most beautiful women in Darwin, and it was one of those trifecta, like if an asteroid hit the Earth right then, I'd be like, done. You know, it made the Trump presidency okay for that moment. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing your songs and stories tonight. It's been lovely, Quito.
Thank you.
On ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, this is Nina Simone.
My baby don't care for shows. My baby don't care for clothes. My baby just cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. My baby don't care for high-tone places. Liz Taylor is not a style, and even Lana Turner's smile, something he can't see. My baby don't care, who knows? My baby just cares for me. Shows, and he don't even care for clothes. He cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. Baby don't care for. He don't care for high-tone places. Liz Taylor is not his style, and even Liberace smile. Something he can't see is something he can't see. I wonder what's wrong with baby. My baby just cares for. My baby just cares for. My baby just cares for me.
Nina Simone, My Baby Just Cares for Me, on ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory, your blues song as programmed by Quito, Washington. I hope you've had a wonderful evening tonight. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. It's time for ABC News at 10 o'clock.
ABC Radio Darwin. Always watching, always listening, and always local. Join the conversation anytime by calling 1300 057 222.